Japan's music scene is full of interesting bands on their way up right now, but if you're watching this video, you're probably already aware of that. So what are we doing today? Well, I'm going to be giving you a quick synopsis of 5 bands who I really think are worth keeping your eye on, talking about what things make them so good, what I think they're capable of in the future, and what potential things they have to contend with to really see their full potential. Now, 2 little caveats before we go any further. First of all, this is obviously my personal opinion, but I'm just saying as this is someone who lives in Japan, works with music, and does this review channel, so hopefully my opinions are worth a little bit. Do feel free to get in the comments and tell me what you think as well. And second of all is the fact that we will be looking at bands who are not like the super big names who everyone's already looking at already, you know, not the Love Bites, the Bandmaids and the Baby Metals, and also not so much those bands who've only got one song who seem to have a lot of potential but we don't really know much about, the sort of the Gambits and the Tone Spoons. No, I'm going to be looking more at bands who've already kind of shown us the trajectory they're on. Maybe not everyone's really looking, or certainly not enough people are looking at them, and really we can look at them now and say, this is a band worth keeping your eyes on. So let's get started with number 5. Number 5, Trident. Yeah, now, of course, this is the band that I think everyone's expecting, and probably I would personally put them a little bit higher on this list, but I think everyone would call me biased because pretty much in every single podcast I'm invited on where anyone asks me what band do I think is the one I'm excited about for the future, I always say Trident, and I think you guys have all seen this coming. But there is good reason for that. Now, first of all, Trident have just such a fantastically powerful lineup. Now, Asaka at the front, like I say, has got one of the most interesting and powerful voices. She's got amazing guitar playing skills, but unlike many people who do guitar and vocals at the same time, she's someone who really does manage to nail both of them, doing fantastically intricate guitar lines as well as singing powerful. They have a fantastic bassist in Serena who really knows how to fuse together this 3-piece band, and Nagisa is probably one of the most expressive, interesting and hard-rocking drummers out there. But what really makes Trident so fantastic for me is the fact that this is a band who focuses very much on songwriting. Now, being a 3-piece band, it means that everything is written very much with the core considered. They're not really going too over the top in guitar solos and things. They really have to consider their arrangements properly. They're open to adding a little bit of production to their songs as well to give them a bit of flair, a bit of individuality and personality in their studio recordings. But if you see them live, as I have, they are absolutely incredible. They can fill up a stage and fill up your eardrums and just blow everyone away with only the 3 instruments. This is a band who could go in many different directions. As their recent successes have shown, they just keep on getting better and better. I said they really focus on songwriting, and that is shown by the fact that they don't ever seem to repeat themselves too much. They do songs like Spoopy and Signal that are just in totally different areas, and it seems like each song has its own personality. This is a band who seem to be getting better and better. They seem to be perfecting their formulas as well, as each single album they have come out seems to get more and more people excited, seems to have more and more effective songs, and just seems more and more like they're growing into their own skin. Now, of course, we've had the most recent song, Repaint, just come out, and a few people in the general discourse around it has been, after their recent blowing your mind sort of singles like Cry Out, Spoopy and Signal, this felt a little bit more like a return to safe territory. So I guess the big thing that we want to see from Trident now is just seeing if they can keep on going with this sort of meteoric rise that they've managed to achieve of recent, or if things are going to sort of calm down a little bit. However, the one thing I must say is even if they have a couple of slightly more pedestrian songs and they take it easy for a little bit, this is definitely a band who've shown they have virtually limitless potential. They have plenty of ideas. They certainly aren't lacking on talent. And if you have any look at the sort of things like Asaka from Trident being part of that whole Epiphone Gibson cover super band, this is seriously a band who are obviously interested in hardworking as their gig schedule shows as well. Yeah, I keep on saying this. I've been saying this for several years. I am so excited about Trident. However, hashtag no bias. Everyone knows I'm a big Trident fan already, so I'm just going to put that one out there and move on to number 4. Number 4, Nemophila. Now, I've got to be honest, Nemophila are kind of an interesting story because if you've been following this channel as well, you've heard me talk about them in several videos. And when I first heard them, I've got to be honest, I was not a big fan when they first came out, and they really hit big with a lot of people, and I was still umming and ahhing about them for a certain period of time. They certainly gained them a lot of fame by doing sort of cover songs. I didn't really find anything particularly interesting about the covers they did. I didn't think they had particularly original takes on a lot of the songs, and I must admit at first I was kind of like lukewarm, just going, they're great musicians, but I don't really see what makes them particularly special. Anyway, as time went on, they started to have a couple more songs that are a bit more interesting, and then we started to get things like Adabana, then Style came out, I thought that's kind of cheeky, and then we got the Seize the Fate album, and just listening through it, yes, okay, a lot of the songs were clearly taking inspirations from styles we'd all heard before, but it showed that they had the ability to do lots of different things. So now we had a band who had fantastic musicianship, but were also pairing it up with an ability to really sort of understand the nuances of various different styles. And I must say that was also backed up by the fact that you had that wonderful song N10 on there that just showed a fantastic propensity towards writing a truly classic song. So, and it was also a very complete album, I should point out. So we were talking about a band that was going in the correct direction. They backed that up with a song Rise, then they had Night Flight, which I know is an old song, but it just started to become more and more clear that this is a band who are capable of presenting an eclectic selection of songs. Now, I must admit that with exception to N10, I don't think that they've got a huge number of totally classic songs yet. I think we're waiting for them to really drop those songs where you go, wow, that is timeless. N10's one I'll keep on coming back to, but as a general, they're a band who I enjoy listening to Seize Fate album, but haven't quite hit that point where I'm going, too many of their songs are totally timeless. But I just feel there is so much potential bubbling up in this band, and they're a band who keep on going in the right direction. And to be honest, audiences are really taking a liking to them. They've got fantastic personalities as well. They're touring everywhere. They seem to just be a band who are doing all the right things. Yes, I don't think they've hit their potential anywhere near at all so far, and I'm really excited to see what they do on a second album, which will hopefully come not too long after this first expression of their creativity. But hey, we're yet to see that, and although I don't think they've fully hit their potential yet, that to me just suggests that there is a lot of exciting things yet to come from them, and considering that their current trajectory seems to be upwards, I can't help but feel that those things are just around the corner. So yes, I am definitely excited and looking forward to hearing more from Nemophila, and I hope they lean into doing all of those different styles and don't get just too stuck into doing the sort of screamo metal thing, which is okay, they enjoy it, but I don't feel is necessarily always their strongest suit. Let's see what comes next. Well, next, or at least on my list, is number 3, Hanabia. And Hanabia is a really interesting one because this is a band who, actually, talking of Nemophila a moment ago, Hanabia, I believe, are opening a show for Nemophila in the not too distant future sometime this year. But Hanabia are a really interesting group. Again, not one that I would naturally go towards because there's a lot of screamo stuff in their songs. They are kind of more on the heavy side that I would normally find a little bit grating. But I must say, Hanabia, super exciting band. Now, of course, we first heard them with songs talking about how they like sweets, and yeah, some people might have taken it as being sort of just a bit of a silly thing, but what really hit me about that first song that I heard from them was just their ability to be so creative and do so many different things in a relatively condensed song. They didn't outstay their welcome, they had a lot of personality and flair, and they touched on a lot of different styles. Plus the lineup was really interesting, having someone who's a bit of a punk guitarist, having a singer who was clearly the heavy metal one, but also seemed to give off this air of cuteness at the same time. They were a band who were both interesting in their concept, but also very interesting in their songwriting. However, we were waiting for it to come together in something which was both chaotic in its imagery, but also very much a tight song that you could listen to over and over again and had as much quality as a single as novelty value. And I think that really landed when we had the song, which basically translated as "Pardon, I Have to Go Now," which was frankly ultra catchy. Again, conveyed a message that I think people could relate to. It was a message that, you know, women could relate to, but I think anyone could relate to as well, about just sort of not being appreciated. It did it in a fun way. It kept that sort of outlandish personality that we expect from Hanabia. It showed expressiveness, it showed artistry, and it showed a range of different styles in its actual song structure as well. So as far as I was concerned, Hanabia had taken something that was already exciting and showed that they could make it efficient and effective and produce singles that were really impactful as well. Now, in my opinion, I would like to see them, as much as I know the screamo's part of what they do and those sort of harsh metal vocals, I have no problem with them kind of using that. It's part of their sound, but I hope that that doesn't become too overbearing. I know that it's very often easy to pick up a lot of international online fans who are metal fans, and you kind of feel the need to go heavier and heavier, and this is something that does affect a lot of bands who are achieving success overseas. They tend to lean towards the heaviest because there's a lot of metal fans online, but I hope that Hanabia leans more towards allowing all the various styles they seem to be able to pick up on to come in. They have that punk value, they have that pop value, they have that rock and roll value, they have the metal, they even have a bit of hip hop in what they do. I want to see them using all of that and not just lean too heavy on the metal side. So it's going to be really interesting to see where Hannah Beer goes in future. But what they've shown is they've shown an incredible ability to both have an engaging, fun image, brilliant songwriting, a mastery of several genres that they can put together in interesting ways, cool messaging as well, and frankly just an overall likability, and now quite recently the ability to write a catchy song. So Hannah Beer, I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on them, which moves us on to band number 2. Number 2, Chili Beans. Now, Chili Beans are a band that we haven't really talked about much on this channel. In fact, I think we've only reviewed them a couple of times ever in the last 5 years. However, this is a band who we talk about a lot on the Discord channel, and I must admit, I feel like I should talk about them more because actually I'm getting more and more excited about them, especially over the last year. Now, they do fit into a territory which, once again, I sometimes have problems with the genre that they're in, which is that kind of middle of the road, soft rock sound. But the thing is, they set themselves so far apart from so many other bands who do this. Now, a lot of the times in this kind of softer, middle of the road territory, we get those bands who just sort of do strummy songs that have very generic melodies and the singer sounds like they're half asleep. And I've talked about these bands a lot. And the problem is that they tend to be typified by a lack of creativity. It's just all about sort of mood pieces that don't really feel like they're going anywhere. However, the Chili Beans take that whole feeling of being somewhat relaxed and lethargic and make it so much more interesting. Now, over the last year especially, they had the song come out a couple of weeks ago, You and Me. Before that, they had a song called Daylight, which was really engaging. They had Happy End, they had LIB, which I did review, which I thought was a really fantastic song. And they've just been producing a string of super interesting songs. And what really makes them stand out is that they've got a very specific sound. And a lot of it comes through in the vocals. Now, the reason I say that is because they have lush vocal harmonies in almost all of their songs. You listen to their singles and there is harmonic going on there. Whereas so many of these bands just rely on using the guitar sound and just one vocalist who isn't really putting that much effort into it. Here we have 3 voices that all back each other up. Yes, none of them might be super strong, but it's the fact that they all work together in this sort of lush sound, and you get very well written harmonies in their songs that work so well. But then that's nicely juxtaposed alongside the fact that almost all of their songs have really engaging chorus melodies. So when you take an interesting chorus melody and rather than leaving it on its own, back it up with a nice harmony and have 3 vocals that just work together, and often with a slight switch of who's singing lead, you end up with songs that sound individual, songs that have depth to them, songs that basically all feel like they're taking on an individual journey, have some life, have something to them, the more than just that strum, let's feel chilled out vibe. They actually sound like written songs that you can get your teeth into, that you can hear more and more in the more you listen to, that can make you feel good in virtually any mood and have repeat play value. Chili Beans are a band who I feel are genuine songwriters. Now, yes, I'm not 100% sure where they're going to go in the future. They might just sort of keep on working on this sound, but it just feels like they've started from such a good point of songwriting, and I feel they're doing something which is so in the sort of mainstream sound now. This is the kind of sound that gets the anime theme tunes and things, which we know is basically the mainstay of being a popular musician in Japan. So, you know, I feel like there's the potential for them to become famous, for them to become popular. I think they've got like 300,000 subscribers at the moment on their YouTube, and I can't see it doing anything but getting more and more. I feel like they're the sort of band who can really chart well and do something big. So whether that necessarily translates to international fame, I think it's going to do them really well in Japan. So hopefully that will get them over to other people, and certainly I feel they deserve it just on the sheer quality of songwriting. But with that considered, let's move on to my number 1 pick. Number 1, Gatrick Spin. Now, I've got to be honest, Gatrick Spin are a band who we've been talking about recently quite a lot on this channel, and when this channel first started 5 years ago, we actually talked about them quite a bit then, but there was a long period in the middle where we didn't really discuss Gatrick Spin much. Now, it also might be interesting me talking about them as a band to keep an eye on, considering they've been around for quite a while, but if you know Gatrick Spin, you know they've had quite a turbulent past, marred with some elements of tragedy and just some elements of, you know, changes in the band lineup, all these kind of things. So they're a band who've been going through a lot of turbulent things, including more recently changes as well in their record company structure. So the interesting thing is, well, why would I say they're a band to watch right now? And frankly, I would say that's because when we first liked them, what I liked them about when I first saw them back in the old days was the fact that they were just so crazy, and at the same time they delivered these really catchy songs, but it was just so mind-blowing. And yet at the same time, when I first heard them, I wasn't really sure 100% what to do with it. Like, is this a novelty band? You know, it's crazy, it's fun, I'm impressed, but I'm just not 100% sure if this is too wild to work. Is it just incoherent or what? It was fun, but it didn't really seem like something that was a long-term prospect. And when I came back to them a few years later, at the time when they were having all these sort of troubles with changing members, it sounded like their sound had become a little bit more, shall we say, they were struggling to really get something that got the most out of them. They weren't quite managing to keep that same level of craziness, and it just felt a little bit like it was becoming a bit, dare I say, old hat. Anyway, they had the introduction of Angie as the singer, and then they had the album Gold Dash, which of course was when we were sort of thinking this is going to be a bit of a new dawn for them. I must admit, Gold Dash again was an album that I think at that point I was thinking maybe Gastric Spin, maybe this is kind of the end, because I listened to it and it really just felt a little bit, to me, tired. It just didn't feel like, it felt like it was trying to be exciting, trying to be novel, but it just didn't feel like the fire was there to me. Then something changed. I don't know whether it was just them needing a bit more time to really get used to each other, because obviously Gold Dash came out quite quickly after the band member changes. I don't know exactly what it was, but they had their own self-entitled album, and even that thing, going to a self-entitled album, it just felt like a bit of a reset. Something changed in Gastric Spin a couple of years ago, and they started to reset. They started to simplify, get the sound together, work their way up. We had that song Mindset, which it took a bit of time for me to get used to it because it was such a reset, but it was a simplification where they managed to get to the core of what they were and start building it up again. And it just feels like everything from there has been an upward trajectory. Now, this is a band who they don't have like the massive number of subscribers that a lot of their peers do. We kind of all know them because they've been around for a while, but they don't have the kind of knowledge that a lot of people have of them right now. Even if bands like Nemophila, who are everywhere, Nemophila are probably more famous overseas than Gastric Spin at the current moment. I wouldn't be surprised saying, but certainly bands like Love Bites and Bandmate have superseded them, as we mentioned earlier in this video. But Gastric Spin are a band who maybe just being around so long and maybe having a little bit of a lackluster middle to their career has maybe taken them out of people's attention. But to me, I feel like they're almost behaving like a new band. It feels like there is a new energy in them. Angelina feels like she's much more at home in the band than ever before. I mean, I mentioned obviously we did the videos about Catchy Catchy Yama, about Replica, the two most recent singles, which are absolutely brilliant. I mean, Replica was stunning, but if it wasn't for the fact that Catchy Catchy Yama came out right before, which in my opinion I still think is the best Gastric Spin song to date, and is absolutely just one of the best, probably the best song of this year so far. I'd be surprised if it's not my favourite song come the end of the year. I mean, they are just absolutely nailing it all, and it's sounding like Gastric Spin. That's the thing. They haven't lost who they are. They feel like they've reinvented it, but it feels genuine. It feels like a lot of the sort of things holding them maybe down, a lot of the doubts maybe, I don't know what it is. It just feels like they've shed away. It feels like they're expressing their musicianship. It feels like they're writing songs that are coherent, they're mad, they're crazy, they're doing all kinds of different things, and yet at the same time they're expressing emotion. They feel honest, they feel totally like they're having fun at the same time whilst letting out some quite deep feelings in their songs. They're managing to get catchy choruses that get stuck in your head. This is a band who really feel like they had a formula, and rather than letting it get old, they've reinvented it, and they're just doing better than ever. And considering they were always sitting on a goldmine of talent, a goldmine of an interesting idea for a band, to know that they're hitting their stride after this many years in existence, and they're doing it in a way that, in my opinion, is the best it's ever been. I know a lot of long-term fans hate to hear that. A lot of long-term fans will always be the ones to say, and I don't blame you, hey, the original stuff was the best. I get it, and you know, takes time to prove things, but I can't help but feel that what they're right now doing is the best they've ever done. And even if you don't think that, I would be surprised if you can't be excited about what Gastric Spin sounds like right now. And I would just say keep your eyes on them. Who knows? Who knows? But I think we're about to see the rebirth of a really, really amazing brand of Japanese band, and I can't wait to see Gastric Spin Plus, they got that crazy image that they can really get attention online. So here's just hoping that Gatrick Spin are very much on the trajectory they appear to be. And given the quality of songs they put out recently, they're my current number one. They're my current number one. So there you go. Those are my 5 bands to watch. There's plenty of bands I'm watching. I just thought I'd sort of go through and talk about the ones that currently have me really excited to see what's next. You know those bands where you're just sort of really thinking, I really can't wait to hear your next song. These are 5 bands where I'm thinking, I really can't wait to hear your next song. Yeah, everyone knows I put Trident down the list when really I wanted to put them higher because, you know, Trident, hashtag no bias, love Trident. Like, I just love their sound. But yeah, I had to be fair. If I put Trident at number 1, everyone would call bias on that. So yeah, I hope you're excited about these bands too. If you don't know them, please do check them out. If you've got bands who you're excited about, get them in the comments as well. Like I say, I missed out a couple of bands who are quite new, but hopefully we'll be able to talk about them sometime in the future. Maybe I'll do a follow-up to this. Of course, there's a lot of big bands I've mentioned about, the Love Bites, Bandmate, Baby Metal. I mean, Nemophila are almost on that list, but I don't feel they're quite that famous yet. But yeah, we know those big bands as well, but it's always nice to keep an eye on those bands who are somewhere in the middle, who we kind of know about as Japanese music fans, but other people in the broader music scene might not be so familiar with. Bands who are quite near to that level of being famous overseas, but not quite there on that big level yet. So for me, this is a great conversation to have. Really looking forward to seeing what you say in the comments, seeing who you recommend and what you thought of my recommendations. And until I hopefully see you very soon in Japan for the next one of these, for now, ciao, ciao.